is Scream 7 a trope on the Scream fandom itself? I think that Scream 7, I've been thinking about it over the weekend, had some time to think and stew about it, no pun intended there. That Ethan Embry and Anna Camp represents one side of the fandom in Scream 7. And that fandom being the camp that Stu is dead. And there's all this evidence that he's alive in this movie. And Ethan Embry closed it down and says that he did the AI generated Stu stuff and all that. And he gets shot in the head shortly after he calls us stupid. You know what I mean? Silencing Ethan Embry and maybe silencing that fandom altogether. Because in this movie, there's tons of clues that he's still alive. There's no record to the board that his body even arrived at the morgue. Him and Jessica continuously arguing with each other. That's the biggest argument they had. Not that Lucas, her son, got killed. She's not mad about that. But they get a little snippy with each other when they're arguing about which one of them came up with the stew idea. And another thing that I got to cover is the Ben character. I also have a theory about him possibly not being a ghost face out in the field, but the person behind the AI generated stew altogether in this movie, because it is on his laptop in the movie. But I thought that was this is a very interesting theory. That fandom getting silenced in this movie, because all the evidence really leads to Stu being alive in this film. That they mentioned at the beginning of the film, him being in Scream 2. And looking back on this movie, I was too critical on it on opening night, but I think it actually was a good movie in the end, because it left many boxes unchecked and it left it very ambiguous, which is a good thing. This movie was a big ambiguity, as I would put it, to the whole franchise itself. Everyone's being a little bit too harsh on it. I think in time that this movie will be mostly loved by a lot of us, because it's going to lead up to a Scream 8. And another thing I want to touch on with Ethan Embry's character is that the mental patients run the asylum. I think that's another big trope in this movie that they're trying to touch on, maybe with the other side of the Scream fandom, is maybe that it's kind of crazy, and that's the way they run things as far as like the mental patients running the asylum. That is a big term coined to use with like world leaders and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's very fitting into this film. I added this in. I thought I would just touch on that also, because I forgot to add that in. But remember that the mental patients run the asylum. And look who's in charge right here. Marco Davis, Ethan Embry. Who knows what we're going to get with that. Hopefully they check the rest of the box in Scream 8. Maybe they got a whole new trilogy with this. But I thought that was interesting. I would just go over that with you guys, make a video for today. I do want to make a final review, because my review is going to be a decent amount higher than what I did on opening night. Hope you guys are having a good day. Enjoy your Sunday. Have a nice, relaxing dinner, and be with your family and friends. You know, it's a very important thing. Like, share, and subscribe if you like. Stu is alive, everybody. Take care.